Let's look at who might join Chelsea as a potential candidate for a top four spot. If we assume, and that's always dangerous, Don, that it's the top three again in whichever order, who
Yeah.
do you think might be coming up the inside? Who might be the surprise packet, a bit like Nottingham Forest were, but like Brighton have been as well? You got to remember as well, teams like Villa competing in the Champions League,
Yeah.
like Newcastle as well. So who are Chelsea's challengers, do you think, to kind of be best of the rest, if that's...
To be honest, Mark, I think it's pretty much set in stone. The top four is the top four. Okay. I don't think Spurs can get there with Champions League football. Man United are making good strides in the signings that they've made, but are they really going to jump from fifth bottom all the way into the top four? Highly unlikely. Newcastle, I'd like to think, being a Newcastle fan, we could challenge, but if Isak goes, then it's nigh on impossible on top of Champions League football as well. So I think you're pretty much looking at a top four that I would be stunned if anyone gate crashed that. I mean, Aston Villa, European football, but they've lost Rashford, they've lost Asensio. They haven't really strengthened. There's talks of Leon Bailey, I think, going to Roma. So their squad, Jacob Ramsey's just signed for Newcastle. So they're losing bodies on top of a PSR problem. So they need to bring some top quality in. So I think, I hand on heart, mate, honestly think no one's going to challenge this top four. There's good sides out there that had really good seasons last year. Bournemouth were a fantastic story. Their back four has just been absolutely decimated in terms of who's gone. I mean, Kirkes went to Liverpool, Hutchison, Real Madrid, Zabani's gone to PSG. So they're going to find it hard. Fulham, maybe, but I don't think they've got enough probably depth. Brighton, I like, but at any given time, someone could go in and bid £100 million for Belieber, and that
Chelsea
takes a lot away from their game. So
maybe not Belieber, because he's been linked with Manchester United.
Exactly. So to be honest, mate, to answer your question, I don't think anyone's going to gate crash that top four unless Newcastle keep Isak. Then maybe Newcastle could have a two-way fight with Chelsea, but I think it's Chelsea's.
Šeško, Mbeumo, Cunha. Over 210 million spent on three really good players that are going to transform Manchester United's attack, James, especially when you've got Bruno Fernandes providing for those three. But it hasn't really changed too much in other areas of the squad. I'm sure there'll be an improvement from last season, but Man United finished 15th last year and Spurs were 17th. Realistically, what's the kind of glass ceiling for Ruben Amorim and his team this year?
Well, I think they've got to be targeting a return to European football of some form. I think if they end up with the Europa League, I think they'd probably take it. I'm sure they're targeting Champions League football. I mean, I was speaking to our colleague Rob Dawson actually about this, and he's been on tour with United, and he was saying that some of the staff there have been discussing the Chelsea season, was it 16-17, when under Antonio Conte, when they finished 10th the year before and then they went and won the title. And part of that is obviously they had clear weeks. They had no European football and they were able to train and prepare for one game a week. And that they have to turn that into a serious advantage. And if Ruben Amorim can talk quite legitimately about taking that job mid-season, not having a pre-season to work with the players, having games every 3 days, week after week after week, well, that's been removed. You know, he's had a full pre-season. And as I say, he's going to have clear weeks to train time after time after time. He will have a group of players who will be fully attuned to the Premier League and the Premier League alone. And that should give them an advantage. The concern is when you look at the starting lineup and it starts to look a bit imbalanced, because as exciting as those three attacking players are, and I think, you know, and again, talking about earlier, Liverpool, Arsenal, integrating these players, I mean, who knows how that's going to work, because you assume all three could start against Arsenal at Old Trafford on Sunday, but we just don't know how those three are going to gel. They've not had much time to do it. Sesko's obviously not been through the door that long. But if that means that Bruno Fernandes plays as one of the two central midfielders, you are asking the other central midfielder to do an awful lot of defensive work out of possession and to protect that back three. And really, you know, what do you ask the wing backs to do then? Do they not push on as much? Perhaps they have to drop a little bit deeper and provide a little bit more support for the midfield, that sole midfield pivot, who you assume will be who? Casemiro, maybe? Ugarte kind of fell out of favour at the back end of last season. Kobbie Mainoo's not really played much football under Amorim of late. So you sort of think, well, are we going back to the debate about Casemiro and whether he's still good enough at this level to be able to stitch it all together? that's an even bigger ask if you've got Bruno Fernandes playing alongside you, rather than having, say, an Ugarte alongside him, with Fernandes playing as a number 10. So, United are going to have to be very, very good with the ball to not be badly exposed without it. And that would be the concern, because, of course, they were savaged at times last season without the ball. And you do wonder, particularly with Arsenal, how good they are on transition. And again, going back to what we were talking about earlier, if they want to get the ball forward quicker and they're looking to play more direct, then you do fear a little bit for United if they can't control that midfield and control the ball well enough.
The other team I want to focus on, Don, before you get your predictions at the end of ESPN FC Live today, is Tottenham Hotspur. Do they finish above Manchester United this season?
I don't think they will. I've got Man United finishing 6th. I think the Thomas Frank signing's a brilliant one. I've been shouting his name for Man United for quite a few years, so it's a brilliant coup for Tottenham that they've got him, because we saw in the Super Cup, and I've watched his Brighton side for a long time now. Brentford, sorry. He's a completely different animal than Ruben Amorim, where he'll put his flag in the sand, Amorim, and say, right, we are playing this system, and I've got to juggle my personnel to play in this system. Thomas Frank will change his system for any given game that's coming up. He played 3 at the back against PSG in the Super Cup. It suited Pedro Porro as a wing-back. It suited Jed Spence as a wing-back on the left-hand side. There'll be other games where he'll play a flat-back 4. He's done that at Brentford as well. He's a manager that's really got an eye on, what you have to do is make sure you're not telling your team about the opposition too much, because it can make you feel a little bit inferior in terms of, he really rates the opposition. You've got to make sure there's a balance between making sure that your team's good enough and your team's in the right system. But there's a huge part of the game now where you have to look at the opposition. And I think that's Thomas Frank's strength. I think he looks at the opposition. He tries to identify their weakness. He'll try and prey on that. But Spurs fans will be in for a good ride, I think. They're not the finished article yet. Being in the Champions League is going to be huge for them, and that's going to take its toll, especially under this new format. So that's quite exciting for the Tottenham fans. And, I think they're going to have a really good season. I just think it reminds me a little bit when Newcastle got in the Champions League, when they demolished, and Newcastle fans will tell you, one of the best nights of their life when they tore apart PSG in the Champions League, St James's Park. But they finished, I think, 9th or 10th that season, and had a little bit of an impact on the Premier League in terms of how Newcastle done that season. I see a similar story with Tottenham this season. It's going to go well. The Champions League is amazing for them. Maybe they're going to go domestically and win a trophy, but trying to get into the top 6, I think, might be a little bit of a stretch.
James, the 3 that have come up are the 3 that went back down. It's happened a couple of times now. Is this the season that bucks that trend?
Well, there's something about Sunderland, and I know everybody's predicting them to go down, but for me, there's something about Sunderland that I just feel they've been quite clever in the market. I think Granit Xhaka is a really good signing for them. I can see why they've made him club captain. It's a difficult, cliche, difficult place to go, but it is a tough place to go and play your football. If they can make that a difficult environment for teams, then they've got half a chance there. Of course, you can say the same in particular for Leeds and Ellen Road, fantastic old ground. But I don't know. I've just had this thing in the back of my mind about Sunderland that maybe they can survive. You do fear a little bit for Brentford. If I had to pick one of the teams that is currently sort of established in the league that might go down, Brentford are the one that I'd be concerned about. They've obviously lost Thomas Frank, they've lost Mbuemo, they've lost Christian Norgard, they may well lose Visser as well. It just feels as though there's been such stability at that club for such a long period of time, and Thomas Frank was such an integral part of that. To ask them to go again with an inexperienced manager at the highest level, they'd be the ones that I think the other 3 newly promoted sides will be looking at and thinking, well, they could be a target for us to try and finish above. West Ham, not sure that they've had a great summer themselves. Graham Potter ended last season under a little bit of pressure. He starts this one perhaps under a little bit more. I think there are 1 or 2 sort of vulnerable sides, sort of established Premier League sides. Again, you could see them having a difficult season, and I think one of the 3 will stay up. And if I had to pick, I'd say Sunderland.
Yes, so do I. I think one stays up, and Don, teams that have come up and have gone chasing, it doesn't usually work well for them. Southampton came up, tried to play the same football, and look what happened to them. There's something about Burnley and the goals conceded last season. Best in the division, all those clean sheets. And I know they've lost James Trafford back to Manchester City, but Vincent Kompany will have them ready. Esteve at the back is a solid defender. And for Leeds, if they've learned from coming up the last time and then going straight back down, I think there's a case to be made, and I'm glad that James has made the Sunderland case, but I think there's a case as well for Leeds and for Burnley to think that at least one of them can stay up this season.
Yeah, I think Burnley under Scott Parker, I think, as you said before, they broke all the records in English football last season in terms of the clean sheets record, how many points they won away from home. Just off the back of what James said there, I texted Leroy Rossini, who's a good friend of mine, and his son Liam's the manager at Strasbourg, and Sunderland just signed a guy called Habib Diarra. So I just pinged him a quick text, just saying, give me a couple of words on him, how he's going to do. And he comes straight back, and I've got the words in front of me. He said, great athlete, very mobile, super aggressive when he's pressing, gets forward, gets the odd goal, was captain and good leadership as well. So on the top of him and Granit Xhaka, I think 2 fantastic signs for Sunderland. And I agree with James. I think Sunderland will stay up. Burnley's, story is all about defensive and clean sheets and being hard to beat, which is completely different to Russell Martin's outlook at Southampton. I don't see Burnley staying up. I don't know if they've got enough goals in them. And I know that's a contradiction, but I mean in the Premier League wise, because your centre forwards now are coming up against the best defenders in European football and best goalkeepers at the same time. So how they're going to get enough goals to try and stay up, I can't imagine you'll be looking at Burnley's clean sheet record next year and saying, well, that's what's kept them up, because there won't be too many. Yes, they got them in the Championship. Leeds, I'm not convinced. I'm a little bit unknown in terms of have they really strengthened on the top of last season. So Daniel Farke has got it all on there. That place when it's rocking, Ellen Road, can be brilliant, but at the same time, it's an emotional place to play, and they rely and work heavily on the atmosphere there. Have the players got Premier League nous and skill to try and see them through? Maybe. I don't see it. So I see a team like Brentford struggling under Keith Andrews. I see West Ham struggling. I don't think there's a great positivity about West Ham at the minute. So I think there might be 2 Premier League sides in West Ham and Brentford that might struggle. But one of the 3 to stay up, as I said, and I agree with James completely, I think if anyone's got a chance, I think it's going to be Sunderland.
Yeah, and I'll give Vincent Kompany a call after the show and break it to him that he's back at Burnley and no longer at Bayern Munich next season. Of course, Scott Parker doing a brilliant job to get Burnley back into the Premier League. Let's wrap this up. I just need 3 names from each of you, and I'll give you my 3 names for the following 3 categories as we predict the Premier League season that starts today with Liverpool against Bournemouth. Player of the season, James Olley.
Oh, God, I'm not giving this any thought to it. I'm going to just be boring and say Mo Salah.
Okay, Don Hutchison.
I'll go inside one, Florian Wirtz.
I'm going Florian Wirtz as well. Next one, top scorer. Don, you can start.
Right side, Mo Salah.
Okay, James.
I can't say Salah again, can I?
You can say what you like.
I'll say Erling Haaland for the sake of vague variety.
And I'm going Haaland as well. And I'll start with the best signing of the season, Zubimendi for Arsenal. Don.
Yeah, I mean, I can't disagree. I mean, I really want to say Florian Wirtz.
You can. That's fine.
I know, but I mean, the window's still open, so it could be Isak if he goes to Liverpool. I'm going to say Wirtz. So I've had 2 Wirtz and 1 Salah.
You've had 2 Salahs and 1. Oh no, you went Haaland, didn't you, for top scorer, James? Who's your best signing of the season?
I will go for João Pedro for reasons already discussed.
There you go. Well, as long as he gets off to a good start on Sunday, because I've picked him in my Premier League fantasy team. Hopefully do better than I did last season. A number of teams will be hoping they do better this season than last season. For Liverpool, they're the ones to aim for. My thanks to former Liverpool player Don Hutchison, to James Olley as well. We'll be back tomorrow with Aston Villa against Newcastle reaction as ESPN FC Live is back for the new season.